First up, portable multi-barrel rocket launchers. Nowadays, rocket launchers and RPGs are pretty ubiquitous. But after you fire one rocket, you gotta take cover, set it down, get another rocket, load it, and hope you don't blow yourself up along the way. No wonder they say,
switching to your pistol is always faster than reloading.
If you want to effectively carry more than one rocket, you gotta roll up with a whole rocket artillery vehicle. When can we get the best of both worlds like this?
Check this out. It shoots missiles.
Well, as the inventors of gunpowder, the Ming Dynasty already thought of that. Meet the 火龙箭, or fire basket arrow, a 20-barrel, rocket-propelled, incendiary arrow launcher. Portable, lightweight, and packs a fiery punch. Sorry, what was that? Looks small and silly? Fine, how about this? 长蛇破敌箭, or long serpent, enemy-breaking arrow. 30 barrels of rocket-powered poison arrow power, with backpack straps to boot. I'm sorry, what was that? Not impressed? One salvo ain't enough? Ha, okay, pretty good, you're clever. How about this? 群鹰逐兔箭, or the Convocation of eagles chasing hares arrow, with 30 poisoned rocket arrows per side. That means you don't even need to bother reloading. Just flip it around and then, ba-da! Okay, well, it's more like, more like that. How would I know? Well, they tried building something like that a few years back and, well, just look at it go. Clearly, they really went wild with this rocket launcher thing, and these were just the handheld ones. They also had countless movable, mountable, stationary, and even miniature designs, all documented in the awesomely named Fire Dragon Classic, 火龙经. So how do you top all of those rocket launchers though? Well,
mustn't be afraid to dream a little bigger, darling.
With rocket launcher inception. Enter the airborne, multi-stage, multi-barrel rocket launcher. Modern-day close air support aircraft such as the AH-64 Apache and the A-10 Thunderbolt II are often seen toting these Hydra rocket launcher pods that can throw down a lot of hurt very quickly. But then, you gotta send a guy up there to fly the plane, you gotta protect the plane, and you gotta fix the plane. What if you just put rockets onto your rockets so you can rocket from your rockets? That's exactly what they did. Meet the 火龙出水, literally fire dragon out of water. Often considered the world's first multi-stage rocket. These drawings probably weren't the most accurate because simultaneously lighting 4 separate rockets at the same time for the first stage would be kinda dumb, but its principles are solid. Rocket motors would first get the launcher off the ground, and once airborne, slower fuses in the launcher itself would then fire off a volley of incendiary rocket arrows up to about a mile away. Basically, it's the original version of this.
For your consideration, the Jericho.
Doesn't pack enough punch? Fine. How about an ocean-going Death Star? Oh yeah, you heard me right. These days, we have battleships. Oh, wow. Much large, such frightening. Actually, not really. The last American battleship wasn't even 900 feet long. The first recorded Chinese chuán, or tower ship, was 1,000 feet long. For our international folks, that's a smidge over 300 meters. According to the 太白阴经, a war manual written by Tang Dynasty military governor Li Quan in around 800 AD. This ship was built around 280 AD in the Jin Dynasty, with 3 levels, multiple pavilions, various weapon ports, horse and chariot stables, and deck-mounted trebuchets, turning it into essentially an ancient floating Death Star that could hurl asteroids. For comparison, your average fancy yacht is around 100 feet at most. The famous American frigate, the USS Constitution, is just 304 feet long. The Titanic was only 882 feet. Our current generation USS Gerald R. Ford class aircraft carriers compare at around 1,100 feet. Sound impossible? Well, the book itself states that this floating fortress, like the Death Star, was not without its weaknesses. The sheer size made it dangerously unstable in rough weather, and it was generally agreed that 1,000 feet was a little overkill. If they could figure that much out, they should have at least built one, even if they didn't. Lotrons of a few hundred feet were critical naval assets for centuries, meaning China was rocking some of the world's biggest warships long before the Europeans did. But if bigger isn't always better, how do you one-up that? Well, you don't, because war has changed. In the year 2024, all of these things are arguably old news. Size is no longer equivalent to power. Big guns aren't as useful as smart guns. Remote warfare has become increasingly pivotal in the conflicts of our time, enacting distant destruction from the safety of secure bunkers far away from the battlefield. Somehow, simultaneously more humane and simultaneously less humane. Well, the ancient Chinese already thought of that too, with even more of the moral dilemmas that it brings. That's right, I'm talking about drones. Wait, how do you do drone warfare without having figured out remote controllers and VR headsets?
Sharks with frickin' laser beams attached to their heads.
Well, the land equivalent anyway. You use a cow on fire. Not kidding. They were called 火牛, literally fire cows, or more accurately, oxen, to wreak havoc on opposing armies. The first record of its use was by the general Tiān during the Warring States period around 280 BC in what was called the Fire Ox Formation, or 火牛阵. A whole herd of oxen had blades tied to their horns, their tails set on fire, and were let loose against the opposing army, maiming anybody that got in their way. They were then followed by a battalion of troops to mop up the terrifying survivors. Oh, this is too funny. That was the more humane version. As we know by now, the Ming Dynasty really liked blowing things up. You can probably guess where this is going. Oxen with blades became oxen with bombs. Bombs covered in sharp objects and shrapnel. Bombs filled with chemicals and poisons, or an explosive combination of everything above. Again, set on fire and let loose against enemy forces to incite as much area of effect, or better known as AOE, damage as possible, remotely. Pretty wild, right? It gets worse. Orbital strikes. Okay, yeah, that is a tiny bit of an exaggeration, but to those at the receiving end of this weapon, it might as well have been an orbital strike. I present the tiān jiàn, or Heavenly Soldier Arrow. This was a giant kite about 8 feet long and 4 feet wide that would be quietly flown over a target under the cover of night. It was equipped with 100 rocket arrows and dozens of bombs linked to a dim, slow-burning fuse, so that it could, out of nowhere, rain death from above like divine arrows from heaven. Clever, but how is this worse than an ox on fire? Well, there was one more level on that tech tree, called the tiān pao, or Heavenly Thunder Cannon. The same thing, right? But with a death row convict on the kite to manually launch the ordnance, turning it into an intelligent floating aerial bombardment platform that could stay airborne for as long as there was enough wind and remain lethal for as long as the bombardier was alive. In our modern terms, a smart orbital strike stratagem looks like the Chinese already figured out the best way to deal with bugs 500 years ago.
I say we take off and nuke the entire site from orbit. It's the only way to be sure.
And on that bombshell, these were some of the wildest weapons to ever come out of ancient China. Really makes you wonder what made China's military strength fall off so hard after the crazy gunpowder advancements of the Ming Dynasty, doesn't it? But that's a video for another time if you want. Any epic weapons that I missed? Do you wonder what happened to China's weapons tech after that? Leave your thoughts in the comments below, and for now, let's hope war can soon stay in the realms of history and fiction.